Hello everyone, this is Douglas E. Welch with another episode of In the Garden for a Gardener's Notebook. Here you see the tomato and the zucchini we planted up here. They don't seem that happy in their little kind of makeshift raised bed here. One of the issues I think might be the fact they're not getting enough nutrients. This is just garden soil from the garden center. So what I'm going to do real quickly here is I'm going to top dress with some worm castings, much like you see me doing in the container garden update, and we'll give them a few more nutrients here and see if that helps. Now, interesting thing on the zucchini here, I am noticing, well, I thought it was, well, maybe not. I thought maybe we had a fruit sitting there, which would seem really unlikely because the plant is so small. But we'll give these guys a little dose of nutrients here. We'll water this in later, and we'll see if this just helps them take off a little bit. Now, for more information, everyone, you can always visit the website, douglasewelch.com. There you'll find the Gardener's Notebook as well as everything else that I do, including our recent trip out to Santa Cruz Island in the Channel Islands National Park here in California, where we got to get up close and personal with the Channel Island fox, our endangered species that exists only on the Channel Islands of California. And here you see was the kind of the end of our potato planting. I've had one more plant die back completely. This one shows a little green, we'll let them go a little longer. So again, just like the others in our experiment here, I'm just gonna dig down, pull up, and see if we find any potatoes down here in the ground. Oh, I see one down in there. Now, of course, we did have issues in here. Yeah, there's a couple small ones right there. They're actually starting to root again. Wonder if I should just replant those puppies. I don't know. I'll have to look that up and see what the process is on that. Sort of have seed potatoes growing already. So I'm just kind of rooting around in here. No pun intended. Now this area of the bed had better drainage. Definitely no rot going on here, but certainly didn't do very well either. So not sure, what's going on here. Again, I think the biggest problem down in the other back part of the bed was the drainage, and this will just seems pretty good actually. I think we'll be able to plant back in this area before too long. Probably wait until the fall before we go ahead and plant any more tomatoes though. Potatoes. But that's about it. Didn't find many potatoes down in here in this one. Didn't get as lucky as we did with the other ones. And you know what I'm going to do too? And please forgive the noise next door. The neighbor is building some stuff. Since this guy is almost finished, I'm just going to pull him out and see. Well, there we go. Got a nice little small new potato there. I think we'll cook these up and make some new potatoes. He was still growing, but you know what? The whole experiment was kind of a little bit of a failure there, so I think it's time to move on a little bit. Now that I've got them all out of here, I can start to refurb this bed and perhaps start the whole process that I was talking about earlier, which is, here's another little tiny potato down in there, which is to basically turn this into a raised bed. Get up away from this heavy clay soil that's underneath here and actually give a nice planting bed for things like potatoes and other veg. My wife has been really keen to grow more veg in the garden, and I think this is a good place to do it. It gets plenty of sun. We just need to improve the soil here a little bit. And as always, that said about the potatoes, the white potatoes, the sweet potatoes, despite looking a little wilty right now, it is the middle of the day here, they're still going along. I expect there to be big tubers underneath them, as they seem to have been healthy in the entire time they've been growing. In fact, I see some new vines spreading out even further on each end. Checking in on the onions, you can see they're getting quite sizable down there. Starting to see them kind of rising up above the soil here a little bit. Let me come back in and put a little more soil over top just to let them keep growing. But again, one of our big successes this year. So here we are in the back garden. As you can see, we're looking at the area where we planted that collection of plants from the warehouse store, and I didn't think anything was coming up at all, but I'd just been noticing some seedlings popping up, probably stuff that was already in the soil. But then I happened to notice right down here in front, it looks like the Aqualia is starting to actually pop up out of the soil, which is good news. I was getting a little worried there whether any of this was going to take. So I'm hoping now that I've seen this, we'll see the other two things, the Wachera and, what was the other thing? I forget what it was. But the other plant of the three to start coming up here, and we'll see a little more action in this area of the garden. Now, I've sort of been meaning to show this example of what not to do in a garden for a while now. And this plant, this hibiscus, was planted here when we first moved into the house, so it's not something of our doing. But you'll notice that all the flowers are pointed in this direction because that's where the south is and that's where the sun is. Unfortunately, they're pointing into my neighbor's yard. I don't get to enjoy them. I think they get a lot more enjoyment out of them than I do because they simply don't turn to face back into the garden. So it just goes to show you that when you're planting ornamental plants like the hibiscus and others, think about your placement, because if you plant them on the south side of your property, they're always going to be looking away from you rather than looking into your garden. So perhaps if you had a sunny spot on the north border of your garden, that'd be a better place to plant these. My squirrels here in the garden tend to be a little more skittish than this guy. I walked out in the garden and he didn't want to go anywhere, so figured I'd catch him on video just a little bit here. I think maybe some other people in the neighborhood have been feeding him. He's quite inquisitive and quite interested in me, thinking maybe perhaps I have some bird seed to offer him or not. Well, here underneath the bird feeder you can see that we have the sword ferns settling in again, and not throwing off tons of new growth. I am seeing a few fiddleheads kind of popping up here and there, but otherwise looking good, nice and green, helping to add a little greenery to this part of the garden. If I pan up here behind them, again looking back towards the potting bench, you'll see our Schefflera, which is doing very well. I'm very happy with this. It seems to be a good sighting, seems to like where it is, seems to be throwing off new growth, and I do like the variegated color. That just helps to bring some brightness into this more shady part of the garden here. I want to thank you all for joining me for this episode of In the Garden. Here we have a lovely, I believe this is a JFK rose if I remember correctly. For more information, you can always visit the website, douglasewelch.com. There you'll find more information on everything I do, as well as a gardener's notebook. Thank you for forgiving the environmental noise today. The neighbor's working hard on a project next door, and so I'm having to shoot when I can and fit in my filming around it. I don't think the noise has been too bad, though. Hopefully he'll be finished up with that project before too long, so I don't have to work around it so much in the future. That said, enjoy your garden no matter what's going on next door or in your garden or wherever. Gardens give us a little piece of nature in our own backyard, and we should always appreciate them for what they are, even if they do bring a little work into our lives. Once again, I'm Douglas E. Welch. Until next time, keep digging.